hiking, biking, art, teaching English, volunteering, all kinds of things, singing, whatever it is, create a trip around that. What about real life experiences while you're on a trip? Trips with a purpose. Volunteerism is huge right now. And it's a great way to check off a bucket list item if you wanted to help the children of Africa, or you want to help women in a country create a business so that they can sustain themselves and their family. Then you can create trips like that and actually do something to give back to society while you're on a trip. And then the last one was easy planning. Well, I'm not going to put a plug in for travel agents, but yes, I am. Because one of the things that we do is we take the heavy lifting off of you finding the trip that you're looking for. And not everybody is computer savvy. Some people are overwhelmed. I've gotten quite a bit of business recently from people that just say, I'm just overwhelmed. There's too much out there for me to go through. So easy planning, there's some apps out there, but most importantly, work with someone professional that can help you do your trip. So those are the trends for the week. I'm going to take another quick break, and when I get back, we're going to talk about travel news, some things that I think you need to know about, and then we're going to have our guest speaker, Mr. Dale Gebhardt. I love him. Hope you're listening, Dale. And anyway, we're going to talk to Dale. And of course, we've got our friends over at the Wireless Traveler. Amazing, amazing friends at a Wireless Traveler that will tell us all about Wi-Fi calling app. This is Karen Duncan, your Bucket List Buster. I'll be back in a minute. Subscribe to your Bucket List Buster on Spreaker.com, iTunes, Spotify, and now iHeartRadio, so that you don't miss any of the travel news and travel trends for the week. Destination highlights, exciting guest speakers that include professionals from the travel industry and guests who have traveled the world. Plus, are you considering becoming an expat and moving internationally? Then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. Your Bucket List Buster, here to help you start living your dreams. Welcome back to your Bucket List Buster. Karen Duncan here, talking about weekly travel news. So everybody is familiar with Airbnb. They are the biggest in the home sharing market. They were the beginners and they're huge. There are some other smaller ones that have popped up. I know here in Panama, lots of people are home sharing. We have people that come for short periods of time, 3 months, 6 months, and then the rest of the time they're home sharing. There are people that have portions of their home that they use for home sharing. Some of them have created a full business by home sharing. Well, in the United States specifically, there are some problems with home sharing and the cities and counties in which these people live. I know before we left Austin, Texas, people were starting to do Airbnb with the Formula One folks coming in every year. And the city was trying to figure out what they were going to do. The problem with home sharing and the cities in which they are doing this is there's no tax being paid. So what does it boil down to? They want their share of the money. Well, with hotels, you have hotel tax that go toward convention centers, employees, all kinds of stuff, right? So they're getting their money from the hotels, and they're happy with that. The problem with home sharing is people have no obligation to pay anything. So the cities are trying to figure out what they can do to get their piece, basically. So there are some rules, and if you are home sharing or considering home sharing, you may want to look into what your city or state is trying to implement in terms of legislation, because you may want to be a part of this conversation. Is it, as a property owner, your business how you handle your house? Of course, there are folks in the neighborhood, depending on where you live, that may or may not like the fact that you have temporary people coming into your home. So, for instance, New York, where a large majority of apartments cannot be rented out for less than 30 days unless a permanent resident is present in the unit at the same time. So there are items like that. Do you want to be in your home when you are renting it out? Some people don't mind. I knew someone in Round Rock, Texas, who Airbnb'd her house, rooms in her house all the time, and that was supplemental income for her. Should it matter that she's doing that? Should it? That's a question. Another one, San Francisco is having a problem as well. Once you receive a short-term residential rental registration number, you may put your listing on a platform, rent a portion of your unit for less than 30 days, rent a portion of your entire unit for less than 30 nights if you're not present for a maximum of 90 nights per calendar. So there's just lots of conversations. So there are rules and regulations you have to abide by, and I think that it's worth talking about if you're going to be doing this, that you be a part of the conversation in your area to make sure that you have a say-so. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and I had heard of this, but I didn't worry about it because it didn't affect me so much, but their DWI complicates Canada entry for clients. So if you have a DWI, it's considered a criminal act, and Canada has the ability to deny you entrance into their country. And that even includes if you're flying to Vancouver to take a Alaskan cruise. If you've had a conviction, then you possibly will not be allowed in Canada, which means you would need to only do the trips that go out of Seattle or start in Alaska. It's a big deal. So you need to take that into consideration for our folks out there. Everybody makes mistakes. I'm not judging. I'm just giving you the information, but I want you to know that that is a possibility. DWI conviction could be enough to cause the Canadian immigration authorities to refuse to admit you into Canada. So take that into consideration. And last but not least, airports. This is Memorial Weekend. This is a huge weekend for folks in the United States. And although most of you have made your plans for the weekend, I know I'm late getting to this, but I thought you should know. San Francisco is included in 6 of the 10 worst routes for disruptions according to Air Health. So San Francisco to Seattle and vice versa, Denver to San Francisco, San Diego to San Francisco, New York City via JFK to San Francisco are among the most disrupted flight routes to kick off this summer holiday. Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale ranks 5th worst. Seattle to LA, Orlando to New York via Newark, and New York to Newark. What? And New York, and New York City, Newark. And to Fort Lauderdale are also disrupted more often than most other routes. Sorry, Portia, my poor baby lives in Fort Lauderdale. But yeah, those are the routes that get the most disruptions. So if you're looking at making flight plans, you may want to do another connection or go in a different direction to get to where you want to go. So that is travel news. When we get back, we've got Dale talking to us about living aboard his beautiful sailboat, and it's going to be fun. This is Karen Duncan, your bucket list buster. I shall be back in a minute.
Generation of beach-loving, fun-binging vacationers.
That's right, my generation.
That's why Beaches Resorts is #1 for Generation Everyone. With the best water parks in the Caribbean and more land and water sports than anyone, including unlimited scuba. Plus Sesame Street characters for the kids and up to 21 fabulous restaurants for everyone. All included. Beaches, Generation Everyone.
Welcome back to your Bucket List Buster. This is Karen Duncan, your host, and I have with me, this is really exciting for me, we have Dale Gebhardt, the World Voyager, and he is here in Vista Mar Marina, where I live in Panama, and he is on board the Arios, and we are going to talk to him today about his world adventures aboard his sweet baby boat. It's not a baby boat. It's a good-sized boat. What size is it?
Yeah, it's a 45-foot or 13-meter monohull sailboat.
Nice. So let's talk about where you started in life. You know, what did you do, and then how did you get to where you are right now?
Okay, well, I've led a very charmed life. I was able to play professional hockey for the Boston Bruins when I was a young man of 18. Got injured, and unfortunately, that dream came to an end. Owned a couple of bars after that, and through karma lucked into a job with Walt Disney looking after video cassette distribution in Canada, and 8 years later I ended up being the president of Walt Disney Canada.
Wow.
Dream job. They just wanted me to move from Vancouver to Toronto, and Toronto's a great city for business, but I didn't want to live there. So whatever the saying is, when one door opens,
one door closes,
or window opens.
Yeah.
I ended up getting involved in real estate, and for the next 13 years, after working for the same fellow for 3 years, I bought the company, and it was the right place, right time. I was able to make enough money at it that I packed it all in at 48, and I've been sailing ever since.
Wow. So what initially gave you the travel bug prior to you getting on your vessel?
Well, I guess when I worked for Disney, I traveled a lot, both domestically in Canada and internationally, every 6 weeks down to California, and every 2 months somewhere in the world to participate in the Disney World meetings. So, you know, when the company's paying, you stay in slightly nicer places, and that was lots of fun. And so when I decided I had enough, whatever enough means to everyone, enough money in this particular case, I decided what I really wanted to do was go do some serious sailing, and that's what I'm doing.
So have you always sailed? Did you start sailing as a child? Or
no, I grew up in a province called Alberta, which is just north of Montana for the American listeners here, and I didn't even get on a sailboat until I was about 30 years old, but I fell in love with it. 2 years later, I had bought a boat capable of going offshore. 2 years after that, I sailed up to Alaska from Vancouver and back. Over the next 4 years, I sailed twice to Hawaii, and then I did a 5-year trip through the South Pacific, all the islands, French Polynesia and so on, down to New Zealand, and came back a slightly different route through the Cook Islands.
See, that's my bucket list, is the French Polynesia. I feel like it's calling my soul there.
Well, it is beyond beautiful. The culture is much simpler. Many of the islands still don't have electricity, so that means no refrigeration, and that means you live in a market economy, so you're going down to the market every day, and that's the social event of the day for most people that live there. So their lives revolve around their family, their community, and their faith. And money isn't very high on the bucket list. There's on that list because they're just never going to have it.
Right.
And they seem a lot happier than a lot of the stressed out people from North America.
Absolutely. I totally believe in now that I've gone through the exercise of getting rid of stuff and becoming more simple. I'm still not a minimalist per se, but my life is a lot simpler than it was when I lived in the States a year ago. And I could pare down some more and be very, very happy. You know, once you get rid of things and stressors, then you wonder, why didn't you do this sooner?
Exactly, and living on a sailboat does that for you, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You have no need for furniture. You can only carry 4 or 5 pots and pans, and I have one closet, which is very small for clothes. So less is definitely more.
Right. That's amazing. So, what was your very last adventure that brought you to Panama?
Well, 41 months ago, I left Vancouver on this particular trip. I'm doing a circumnavigation of the Americas, or a north-south circumnavigation